couple of days ago, I took the time to read some of the responses to a video I posted where I posted the solution of what Negroes could do to solve the problem regarding the Ghetto Gaggers website. And needless to say, the responses I read were quite disturbing. One response was on a Facebook group where one of these Negro males decided to say, "Why are you trying to save hoes? Let hoes be hoes." And another one said, "This is what black women chose to do." This is a deflection, plain and simple. The people making most of the complaints about the Ghetto Gaggers website are black men. And you would think black men who's saying that this site degrades our women, disrespects our women, and makes a statement about our women will be the ones up and ready to fight towards a solution. But what I saw in these responses clearly showed me how weak and cowardly many black men in our community are. And when I look at the black male, it saddens me that, again, nothing has changed about him since 1989 in my eyes. He's still the same little boy in a grown man's world, and he still doesn't understand how things work. Now, in that video and in a blog I wrote, I presented the solution to the problem. And these are the two actions that the Negro can take if he does not like the content on the Ghetto Gaggers website. If he is so offended by the Ghetto Gaggers website like I am, these are his two solutions. One, he can go and get a lawyer, a couple of lawyers, and mount our case against with the FCC, making a statement that this website is obscene. And clearly, he would have a case that he could win, because on the Ghetto Gaggers website, there are depictions of racial hate speech and sexual violence. And on the case of both of those, the site would be deemed obscene and removed. The second standard he could use to get this website taken down is to write letters to the web host, the servers that host the Ghetto Gaggers website. And this is a very easy thing to do. You just go scroll all the way bottom to the bottom of the website, or one of the affiliated websites with it, because usually these sites are together in an affiliated family, these porn sites. And you go down, you find out who the web host is, and then you start doing an email campaign that way. And usually, when the web host finds out that this guy is violating the terms of service, because what this content on Ghetto Gaggers is violating the terms of service of that website, because you're promoting criminal behavior. What a lot of these violent acts clearly constitute sexual assault and borderline rape. So this is sexual violence, and they're going to have the site taken down for that. And they will also have it taken down if they get 1,000,000 letters or 100,000 letters from black men saying that they now know what other sites are hosted on this server, like your GoDaddy.com. They know all the websites that are hosted on it. They're going to list them, and they're going to tell people to boycott them. But this action, right then and there, these two actions would have led to the Ghetto Gaggers website being shut down. But the responses I got from Negro males pretty much show me where the problem is. And the reason why these black women are getting degraded is because our black men are just not leaders in our community. These black men made this cause up. They complained about this Ghetto Gaggers website 5 years ago. Many black men on YouTube talked about this website, but none of them took a leadership role in saying, let's get together, for all of our popularity and all of our following. None of these men said, let's get together and start a campaign to get this site shut down. That shows you how weak the leadership is when it regards black community and it regards to black men. And what's really sad about this is our black men, they are at the weakest state that they're in. I mean, I look at the responses I saw where they turned it on the black woman. Now, if you have an issue, if you put an issue up to the forefront, you need to be the one to take the lead in your own cause. You say this site is degrading to black women. You say this site is offensive to you. You sit there and say this site is offensive, yet you do nothing to stop it. You let this site fester for 5 straight years. What does that say about you as a black man? It says basically you're weak, you're cowardly, and you're extremely passive and you're just letting things go by. I mean, basically, you hiding behind the skirt of a black woman. This is what you Negroes do. You hid behind the skirt of a black woman. Oh, it's the black, let the hoe be a hoe. Or, if you go after these black, another response I got is, if you go after these black women, they'll come after you. Well, let me tell you something, Negroes. Black women have been coming after me since 2011 on my blog, www.seansjames.blogspot.com. And I have written articles that were considered offensive to black women since then. I've written blogs like Why 70% of Black Women Are Single. I've written blogs such as Way Single Mothers Destroy Their Sons. I have written blogs such as Why Black Women Will Be Single for the Rest of Their Lives. I have written blogs telling black women the truth. And I have sat there and in the comments section been attacked. I've had people go to their own websites to attack me. And you know what? I wasn't afraid of them. When I've even had members of my own family, when I wrote the blog, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single, come after me saying I was bashing black women. But I stood my ground. And the reason why I stood my ground is because I have integrity. And a man who has integrity is going to stand up for what he believes in. If he's going to make a point and and stand up for and present a cause, he's going to stand behind it and behind the reasons for it. Now, I look at this Ghetto Gaggers website as degrading to women, offensive to women, and I see it as obscene. Um, and I'm willing to stand up and make a point of trying to get it shut down. But I am just one voice, and I cannot do it alone. As a leader, I'm willing to lead the cause to get this site shut down. But I look at this Negro. I look at how cowardly he is. He's afraid of losing favor with this black woman. He's afraid that if he stands up for himself, that he won't get any of that, I don't know, that nuclear waste between her legs. Taking a phrase from Akwisi 100, because pretty much that's what it is, it's nuclear waste. He's afraid he's not going to get a taste of the waste. And, he values that more than his own personal intangibles. And that's what's really sad to me. Your personal intangibles, such as your dignity, your self-respect, and, all the intangibles of personal power and the intangibles of your manhood are less valuable than this woman. It really shows how totally foobar these Negro males are, and that they have no sense of manhood. They have no sense of, as a man, God made you to be the leader. He made you to be the head of the family. He made you to establish the standard for what your community should be. And here you are putting it on the woman, saying, let a hoe be a hoe. This is the way these black women want to be. If you go against these black women, they're going to come after you. Well, guess what? Just like I said before, these black women have been coming after me. They have threatened not to buy my books because I presented these opinions like why 70% of black women are single. They came after me talking about, again, they threatened about when I talked about why black women are single, because I talked about side pieces, because I talked about talked about why real men would avoid these single mothers. They came after me and threatened me like that, yet I stood my ground. Why? Because, again, I have integrity. And my position does not change. My position does not float in the wind. And I've had other men, say to me, you must have a really strong backbone to stand up and say these things. And the reason why I say these things is because they're true. And I believe that, this is going to lead to a better black community. When you sit there in the back all passive and scared, all it tells people is they don't have to respect you. And this is one of the reasons why people don't respect black men in the community, because our men refuse to stand up and be men. They refuse to stand up for the causes that they put out here, like this Ghetto Gaggers website, that they so protest against and so vehemently against. They'll make all these videos, and blog talk radio shows about other subjects, but they won't confront this one. They're so afraid, of losing that they don't understand that When you're a coward, again, nobody respects you. This is, again, why your black woman does not respect you. Because you won't put a line in the sand. You won't establish a standard for quality in your own community. You won't establish, you know, the values you want presented in your own community. You won't take the lead in your own community. Now, God made you to be a leader, and here you are, a follower. Here you are, afraid of a black woman. Here you are, afraid, to take on this white man and these white supremacists who are degrading not just the image of your black woman, but your image as well. Because, again, remember, your black woman is the transmitter of culture in your community. And as she goes, your race goes. And if she is presented degrading herself, being slapped, being beaten, being called an N word, being called a B, being called an H, being made to eat watermelon, made to sit in her own filth, this is the message that is being transmitted to the world of, even if it's the porn world, of how it is to treat a black woman. This is the standard that you, by being passive, are allowing to be established regarding you or a woman. And if you don't say anything, others will say it for you. And this is what the Ghetto Gaggers website pretty much, this is the argument for the Ghetto Gaggers website. You're so weak that your woman will allow herself to be degraded, and because she'll allow herself to be degraded, because you won't do anything. You won't stand up for her. You won't back her up. You are a weakling. And this is why everybody is taking your image, black man, and running it into the ground, because you have no backbone, you have no spine, you have no integrity. You are basically a coward. And this is why people not only do with this Ghetto Gaggers website, make your woman look bad, but they make you actually look worse. Because when it comes down to your image, Negro, you're the one they're putting in dresses, they're, dolling them up and making them look feminine. Because, again, people have no respect for you because you refuse to stand up for yourself. You refuse to say no. You refuse to draw a line in the sand and establish a standard for black manhood. And this is why people treat you the way they do. I look at all these images of Hollywood media and American media. The only man who is being put in dresses is black men. The only man being put in a submissive position is black men. Every other man in the world takes control of his own image and takes control of his own family and sets the standard himself. The only man who allows this debauchery and degeneracy to go on in his own community is this black man, because he is too afraid to be a leader. He is too afraid of everyone, from a white man to a black woman to even his own children, and I dare to even say even pet dogs and cats. He's so afraid. That's why he is at the bottom of the hierarchy in this dysfunctional order, because he's afraid to take a leadership role. Now, God made you to be a leader. He made you to be a head of the family. He made you to establish the standards. And the reason why your community is falling apart, Negro, is because you refused to stand up for yourself and say enough is enough. Now, again, you could have shut this Ghetto Gaggers website down 5 years ago, but because you are a coward and you are just so weak, it goes on. You could have mounted all sorts of things, just like those two solutions I just said right there. About the FCC and saying and going after this site with obscenity laws, and then writing to the web host. You could have done that a long time ago. You could have used all of these blog talk radio shows you pro-black, back to Africa Negroes use. You could have used that as a platform to talk about getting the site shut down. You guys have 4 and 5 hour shows ranting about what one black person said about another black person, or what somebody wrote in an article on some place like Huffington Post or Madame Noir, or what on these other silly little websites. You'll talk for 4 or 5 hours about another black man or another black woman, but when it's time to take a charge against some white supremacists, these pro-black, back to Africa, Afrocentric Negroes have been mysteriously silent for the last 5 years. No shows about this, no discussions about it, and even your mainstream media, your Oprah Winfrey's, your Tyler Perry's, your other black people, Lee Daniels, all of these black people could have easily, made a statement about this website and made efforts to try to get it shut down. You think these people, again, there's a sign running around, all these Negroes running around with these signs talking about Black Lives Matter. Here was a chance for you to show that Black Lives Matter. I mean, if you see an image of a black woman being degraded, and you're supposed to be a black woman, and you're supposed to be black men who are supposed to be for black women, like these pro-black African Negroes always say, that they're always for black women, and they want to see, the image of the black woman uplifted. Here was your opportunity to protect your black woman. Where are these pro-black African Negroes when it comes to this Ghetto Gaggers website? If I had a cricket sound effect, I'd pretty much use it, but they had the opportunity to do something about this. This was their chance to show that they were leaders, and they didn't take it. Same thing with many of these intellectual armchair Negroes. This website is out here. Again, another opportunity for you to show that you truly want to lead your black community, and you want to be the man and the head of the family. You want to promote a good, moral, upstanding black family. Another opportunity here. Did not take it. And I look at you Negroes. You bring up this problem, but you don't want to participate in the solution. It clearly shows me, how my argument about you being codependent is pretty much valid. I mean, you just want to be victims, but you don't want to, go into the survivor mode and say, you know what, I'm going to stand up for myself. Say this site is unacceptable. This site violates my community standards, because this is what the crux of my community standards argument is. This is the black community. This is our standard. We're not going to stand for you presenting images of white men not pretending to, but yeah, there is porn is fake. Pretending to call our women, to rape our women, call them the N-word, call them the B-word, slap them, and even it doesn't matter if these women participate in it. These images are seen, and we are setting a standard for our community, and we don't care what it is. As black men, we're the leaders. We're supposed to be the ones setting the standard for how our image is presented. And I look at this, Ghetto Gaggers website, and Negro he refuses to take that stand and establish that standard for how he is presented. Instead, he allows others to present it. And this is why this site has been going on for the last 5 years, because Negro males are weak. Negro males are sorry. And they let their women lead them instead of leading themselves. Now, I saw examples of this, with this whole Eric Garner situation. Again, women leading in a cause for black men instead of black men leading themselves. And this is just sad for me to see. I mean, these black men, they talk a good game. They go on and on and on. But when you time to take action, these Negroes scatter like roaches. And then they want to say Black Lives Matter. How does a black life matter if you don't want to take action to show that it matters? And in the case of the Ghetto Gaggers website, you have an opportunity to show that a Black Lives Matter by, standing up and saying, I'm not going to stand for my image being degraded like this. And it doesn't matter if the black woman wants to participate in these type of acts. I'm not going to stand for these type of acts. I'm not going to stand for my image being presented like this. When she presents her image, it reflects on me. It is just not on her. And as the leader, I'm establishing this standard for our image. I'm establishing this standard for the image of black manhood and black womanhood, because again, God made the man the leader, and the man is the one who's supposed to set the standard for how his image is represented. Now, if they had this same Ghetto Gaggers website, and they put some Jewish women up there, and they had them, doing the Heil Hitlers and the swastikas writing swastikas on themselves and talking about how they're proud to be a member of the SS, I guarantee you, every Jewish man would get together and hit that site shut down within a day. I mean, if there was an Asian site called Ghetto Gaggers, and it featured Asian women talking about how they were proud to be chinks, they're happy, humble servants of Mr. Chully, and other stuff like that, and calling them slant eyes and slapping them around and making them eat fortune cookies, Asian men would get together. That site would be shut down within a week. If there was a website called, Burqa Baggers, where, Arab women have burqas ripped off them and they're slapped and beaten and called towel heads and all sorts of other, names. The Arab community would have that site shut down in a week because those men have a standard for their image, they have a standard for their community, and even though there's porn in their communities, they have a standard for how their image is depicted. Only in the black community is there no standard for how images of black people are depicted because, again, our men are extremely weak and extremely cowardly from what I've seen. And you know what's the saddest part about it is that the more I watch David Carroll videos and the more I listen to him, the more you Negroes pretty much prove him right. And it's not him, his observations are pretty much almost the same as my observations, but you pretty much prove him pretty much right by your actions. And I look at your actions, the responses I got in those Facebook groups and those YouTube comments. I looked at those responses, and it pretty much proved everything that he said about you Negroes right to me. And same thing, I watched an Iceman video too. He said the same. Came to the same observations about you Negroes, that you are cowards, that you are weak, that you are soft, that you are lame, and that you refuse to stand up for anything unless, you just refuse to stand up for anything. You're just weak and people just walk all over you. When you're afraid of what your woman is going to do to you, what does that say about you? When you're afraid that these black women are going to come after you, what does that say about you? Again, I have been attacked even by women in my own family, yet I still stood my ground. I mean, even after I wrote those blogs, I still stood my ground. I didn't delete the blogs. I left them there, and I left these people's comments there. And the funniest part was, and the irony of trying to attack me on my blogs, like 70% of black women are single and why real men avoid single mothers. Many of those same dysfunctional black women proved every point that I made absolutely true about themselves. And what had happened was they couldn't deconstruct my arguments, they couldn't refute my arguments. They went into ad hominem attacks and shaming tactics because they knew everything that I said was absolutely right about them. And what happened was, the irony was, in those couple of blogs, they just couldn't beat anything that I said. And at the end of the day, I was still standing. My blog is still standing. I'm still out here selling and promoting books. And when you stand up for yourself, people respect you. And the reason why people respect you is because you're willing to stand on your own position. The reason why no one respects this Negro male is because he refuses to stand for anything. He refuses to take the lead in anything that he does in life. He refuses to say, this is what I want, this is the direction I want to set in, this is the course I want to take, this is where I want to go, and this is what I want to do. And this is the standard that I'm going to establish when I go out and do things. I have set that standard for myself ever since I was about 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. I really got serious about setting standards for myself when I was about 16 years old. And I saw the direction my life was going in. And I decided I'm going to set the course. I'm going to take things into my own hands. And this is something that your Negro male refuses to do. He refuses to take the lead. He refuses to go into the leadership role God established for him because he's too scared. And he lets others make decisions for him, like this black woman, like this white liberal, like this Negro pastor, and like this pro-black Afrocentric. He refuses to create his own position. He refuses to establish his own standard. And he refuses to let his own voice be heard. Here he is, again, this Ghetto Gaggers website up for 5 years, not because the black woman, but because he refuses to be a black man. And he refuses to set standards for his own community, and he refuses to, say, this is not acceptable in any way, shape, or form. That you are not going to degrade my woman, you are not going to degrade my image, you are not going to transmit a culture of white supremacy and racism, even in pornography. It is not going to happen. Again, any other ethnic group, your Jews, your Arabs, your Hispanics, your Asians, they're not your Latinos. They're not going to allow. They would never allow this site to go on. They would have gotten their press together, and they would have shut it down. They would have made sure that they have gotten a public outrage because they have all. I look at this Negro again, has all the tools to shut this site down. I look at all these websites like your Huffington Post, your Madame Noir, your 4-hour blog talk radio shows, um, you know, all these little black cable shows. The opportunity was there to kill this site right then and there. These Negroes would have mounted an offensive. They the same tenacity and drive that they had to go after George Zimmerman and um, Darren Wilson. They could have used that same tenacity 5 years ago and drive to get this site shut down. But this Negro male, again, he just is not. He doesn't want to be a leader. It takes people, kicking him in his backside. A woman is like he doesn't want to take the. He just doesn't want to take the action. And the sad part is he's so afraid of losing some nuclear waste between a woman's legs that he doesn't have the testicles to go out and do what is right. I mean, it's not about the woman coming after you. It's about you being man enough to take a stand. And if you take a stand, I guarantee you, you won't have to worry about losing anything because you're going to gain a lot more. Because when you have your dignity and your self-respect and you have a sense of honor and integrity, you have a lot more than whatever that woman has to offer between her legs. And when you you allow your woman to degrade herself and then degrade you by default, by indirectly, it says that everybody can make you into a joke. Because just like they have these ghetto gaggers making the standard for black women, this is why they're putting you in a dress. This is why we have dysfunctional boys like Jaden Smith running around, talking about how he likes to wear women's clothes. Because they don't see you, Negro male, as an authority figure. Boys don't see you as leaders. Boys don't see you as strong. And this is why it's easy to put a Negro boy in a dress now. This is why fashion designers have men running around in skirts. Because you're not seen as an authority figure. You're not seen as a leader. You're not seen as the head of the family. You refuse to take control of your own image. You refuse to define what it means to be a black man. And that's just the saddest part of it all. You don't want to be a man. You want to hide behind a woman. And this is why the world is making your image more and more feminine. Because you refuse to take the action that men take when it's time to protect their communities and, establish standards for their communities. I know this video is going on long, but when I look at the state of this black man, you can't rebuild the black community unless its leaders are rebuilt. I'm going to have to agree with David Carroll on that point because he is right. This black man needs to be rebuilt because in the sad state of affairs that he's in now, again, he could have done something about this Ghetto Gaggers site 5 years ago if his manly faculties were in place. If he knew what the standards of manhood were, if he knew what the standards of leadership were, he could have fixed that. That site would have been gone within 6 months, or even not even 6 months, 2 weeks. Because I look at Kim Jong Un. Now Kim Jong Un, pretty much, that's a standard for manhood right there. You can say what you want about the guy being the head of North Korea. He took care of business when it came down to Seth Rogen and Sony Pictures mocking him. He took his respect and he let them know, look, you are not going to disrespect me. You can do whatever you can do. You can talk about economic sanctions and all that stuff. I've still got trade partners in China, still got trade partners in Russia. I really don't need America. I'm not going to make my country an American standard. This is my standard. This is what it is. And if you don't like it, big deal. But you're not going to disrespect me. And when they came out with that movie, The Interview, and he said it was a disrespect to him, he pretty much took action. Now, a lot of people may not like what he did, but I understood why he did what he did. He was taking his respect as a man, and he was establishing his standard as a man. He said, if you're going to disrespect me, I'm going to show the world what you're really like. You can't talk about my country, and here you are, Sony Pictures, making all of these statements about Negroes, making all these statements about women, making all these statements, and you're supposed to be the liberal and tolerant Hollywood. And this is why he hacked them, because he wanted to make a statement saying, hey, look, you're not going to disrespect me and talk about this is your stand. My standard is bad when your standard is just as bad. And again, he took the lead, he took his respect, and he put everybody on notice. And I guarantee you, nobody's going to mess with Kim Jong Un again because he established a standard for manhood that for North Koreans and his own community. He said, "This is my standard," and this is the same thing your Negro male has to do. But your Negro male again is too cowardly to establish that standard of manhood in his own community and tell others that, look, you're not going to degrade my image, you're not going to disrespect my image, and if you come at me and try to disrespect my image, there's going to be consequences and repercussions. And the same thing with this is the same action that this Negro needs to take with this Ghetto Gaggers website, um, showing that if you try to degrade my image, I'm going to show the world what a hypocrite and a liar you are, and there are going to be some consequences for it. In things like a boycott of all these websites, just like I said, all these websites that are hosted on this site, like your GoDaddy or whatever this Ghetto Gaggers website is hosted, saying that you're going to boycott all these guys and just follow through with it. Or you're going to go take these guys to the FCC and say that, look, these guys are violating obscenity laws. This site violates our community standard for how we want black women depicted, and really use examples like like the Super Bowl with Janet Jackson, Justin Timberlake, and even Monsters Ball, and say, look, this is obscene. This clearly violates the community standard we have established for the black community, and it clearly violates the standard that most human beings would find to be, offensive. I believe if more people, black and non-black, knew about this Ghetto Gaggers website, they would be offended and they would call this site obscene as well. The whole idea of of men walking around in Confederate flag shirts, calling black women N-words, B's, H's, black women writing, "I'm proud to be a member of the KKK," black women writing S swastikas on themselves, and saying that they are, doing Heil Hitler's, black women simulating lynchings and hangings of themselves. I believe most people would find that to be obscene. And if we could get a community standard established, I believe that the site would have been gone 2, 3 weeks ago, the same way, Kim Jong Un, who all the way in North Korea, thousands of miles away from the United States, established a community standard for himself and saying, look, this movie is offensive, this movie is obscene, and he got it shut down. He cost Sony Pictures $80 million. The movie cost $40 million, but the advertising, when you factor in the advertising and other promotional budget, Sony Pictures lost over $80 million on that movie. And with that type of loss, Sony Pictures was put on notice, Seth Rogen was put on notice, and Hollywood was put on notice. You're not going to make fun of Kim Jong-un the way you made fun of his father Kim Jong-il. And he showed some leadership right there. That's what a leader does. Leaders they're going to go out, and regardless of whatever consequences come, they're going to stand on their position, and they're going to set the standard, for how things are going to be done in their community. And this is what your black man is too afraid to do. He's too afraid to sit there and establish that standard for his community. He'd rather hide behind the skirt of his black woman and let her establish a standard. And this is why his community is in decline, because again, he does not want to take the leadership role God has given him. He wants to give this role to this woman, and then he wants to sit there and complain about how things are done. I'm sorry, that's not how it's done. Either you take the lead or you wind up getting what you get. And this is why your Negro community, again, is in shambles, because this Negro male refuses to be the leader. He refuses to take charge, and he refuses, again, I know I've been repeating it a dozen times, but, I just want to drill it in your head. He refuses to set the standard and set the tone like other men do, because from those responses I saw in those Facebook groups and in the comments section, it showed me, how weak and pathetic these black men truly are. And this is why your black community is in the sad state that it's in. And this is why there is no hope and no change for this Negro, because he refuses to be the leader that God made him to be. He refuses to take the lead in his own community. He refuses to set the standard for how how his image is depicted, how his world is presented, and he refuses to stand up and be the man in his own community. And I look at this Negro male, and from what I've seen, again, it's just like 1989 in my life when I saw the sad truth about this Negro. And in 25, 26 years, nothing has changed. He's still going backwards with no plan on ever thinking of going forward. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.